Hey guys, Angus here. Today I've got another airsoft gun review. Today we've got the video review of the KWA M11A1 NS2 gas blowback airsoft SMG. Now if you guys remember, I've had this gun since really the beginning of my airsofting career, back when I was just having fun and really just getting into the gas blowback craze. Now if you're interested in purchasing this gun, you can't purchase it where I originally bought it, sadly, due to the fact that store went out of business. However, there'll be a link down below in the description to airsoftstation.com where you can purchase it for about $160. And trust me, from personal experience, and as you'll find out in the review, it certainly is worth every penny. I've opted to not show you the packaging this gun will come in, because seeing as I purchased it 3 years ago, the box has really changed since I got it. I mean everything, even the styrofoam inside has changed. The box you'll get is typical of the other KWA stuff, large KWA logo on the box, packaged in nice gray styrofoam, etc. Now the quality of the gun is still evident, and I imagine the new models as well. The external quality on this Mac 11 is very solid. It's really built like really any of your other Mac 11s out there. However, the polymer it's mostly composed of, your whole body up there as well as your grip there are composed of polymer. These are very solid, a very good quality piece. This isn't anything cheap that's going to break the second you drop it. It is a solid gun. Besides those main pieces, there are a couple metal ones on here. In fact, the gun's probably 50-50 when it comes to the polymer and metal pieces when you consider everything else. The magazine, obviously here, this is made of metal. The outer barrel of the Mac 11 is metal, and in case you're wondering, it is threaded, so you could put that big old fat Mac 11 suppressor on there if you really wanted to. The bolt and dust cover on the other side are constructed of metal, as are the fire selector switch and the safety also on the other side. And of course, your stock is metal as well, as is the magazine release located behind the grips. You really get a good solid construction here. In case you're wondering, the iron sights are made of the same polymer as the body as well. Overall, externals are great. It's got a lightweight construction, maybe weighing in maybe 3 or 4 pounds with the magazine fully loaded. So good solid construction, but not too heavy. When it comes to the gun's internals, the Mac 11 does not disappoint either. KWA's like the name when it comes to gas blowback guns, especially their SMGs, including their MP7 and the Mac 11 shown here. This gun uses KWA's NS2 gas system, which is a much more gas efficient system. It'll run through a lot of gas, work a little bit better in colder weather, and also the internals on the gun are just very solid when it comes to it. They're all metal. I will point out that I did have one issue with it, being that the feed plate broke, and now unfortunately the gun will no longer fire BBs till I purchase a spare part. But KWA has a great warranty and great customer service, so if anything does break internally, just give them a call up, and they should be able to help you out. Otherwise though, out of the box, the internals on this weapon are absolutely excellent, exactly what we'd expect from KWA. Now as far as features go on a gas blowback gun, just like this one here, there's no bigger feature than the magazine in my opinion. In order to eject the Mac 11's magazine, you'll want to push in on the magazine release located on the back of the grip. It's a very simple metal mechanism. Simply push down like so, and the magazine will be able to be pulled out of the gun. Now the included magazine is a 48 round metal magazine. As I stated earlier, the entire magazine is metal, including the lip up top. That's great because you don't have to worry about any cheap plastic lip snapping off and your magazine being rendered useless. It's set up really like any other gas gun magazine. On the bottom you do have your gas fill valve here. What you do is you take your green gas or propane, that's what this gun runs off of, and you go ahead, press downward, and fill up the magazine until it can't take any more gas. As you can tell by the long mag, this magazine certainly is able to hold quite a bit of gas in there, so you should be able to get quite a few magazines off with the gun, especially with the added efficiency of the NS2 system. On the back of the magazine, you do have a gas release. If it's the end of the game, you're going home, you want to release the rest of the gas, simply give it a push, and the gas will shoot out the front, emptying your magazine. Now, when it comes to loading the magazine, this is where things can get a little bit tricky. As I mentioned, it holds 48 rounds, which is an excellent capacity. You definitely want that bigger capacity with a gun that shoots 28 rounds a second on full auto. The troublesome with it is that the lip is kind of angled, so a speed loader won't exactly fit on there. You almost have to load the BBs by hand with your pinky. In order to load the mag, first you want to pull the spring downward like so, and it does latch at the bottom for added convenience, so you don't have to worry about holding that down and dropping the BBs in one by one each time. The magazine is a double stack mag, meaning each BB has to line up next to another in sort of a diagonal pattern in order to fit all the way to the top. This can get a little annoying because BBs can kind of get stuck in the way in there, and then your mag might have some feeding issues, so just be careful when you're loading it up. Another thing I noticed when I used to use this gun quite often is be very careful when you're releasing the spring at the bottom, because occasionally, like it just did, it'll dig into the side and then it won't feed the rest of the BBs upward. Maybe a couple, but it'll get stuck, and then you'll get stuck not shooting any BBs in the middle of the game. So make sure you're very careful when releasing the spring down the bottom so that it does shoot to the top like so. Overall though, the magazine feeds rather well when that spring is straight and ready to go. I know some of you guys are probably tired about hearing about the magazine, but there's one more very important thing. How important is it? It's so important KWA put a large yellow sticker on the side of your gun to remind you. If you don't cock the bolt back when you go to put the magazine in, you risk damaging the gun's internals. So be sure, before you put this magazine in, simply cock the bolt back. Then you're ready to go. Slide it in, you can go ahead and fire. Make sure you do that. You don't want to damage this gun's internals. Now once the magazine is in, filled up with gas and BBs, you're free to fire the gun. And this weapon does fire in both full auto and semi-auto fire modes. And you access those by the metal fire selector switch located on the left side of the gun, just in front of the trigger guard. As you can see, the dial's currently set to the engraved F for full auto. If you were to flip it so that it's locked onto the engraved letter S, the gun will be on semi-auto. The selector switch isn't going to be slipping in between settings because, well, it has to do a full 180 in order to do that. And unless you're holding the gun very weird, I don't think so. Also, it does require a little bit of force to move, so it's not going to be slipping around on its own. Overall, good quality selector switch. On the opposite side of the gun, located just next to the trigger guard, you have another equally important part, this being your safety. This is extremely important for when you're off the field. You don't want to accidentally pull the trigger and shoot someone when your gun has no safety. The safety is just this small sort of brick piece that slides back and forth. When it's pushed towards the front of the gun and on the word fire, obviously the gun's capable of firing. If you were to push it backward towards the stock, when it's on the engraved word safe, obviously the gun is on safety and you can't pull the trigger. The safety is fairly loose, you can slide it rather easy, but again, unless you're holding the gun weird, I don't think it's going to be moving around on you when you're in a game. Now as far as this thing on the front goes, sort of a sling mount, some of you are probably wondering what it's for. I suppose you go ahead and rig up a sling to it if you wanted to hang this at your side as a secondary weapon, but what this sort of sling mount actually is for is if you wanted to create a cloth foregrip that would attach around here, then wrap around the trigger guard, and you could kind of hold the gun like this. Say if you wanted to use it as your primary in a CQB game. I've tried it once with a ripped up t-shirt. It kind of looked cheesy and stupid. I imagine if maybe it found some cool burlap or something, it'd look pretty nice. But it's just something you could do if you really wanted to make your Mac 11 kind of stand out and actually make use of this sort of sling mount. Not necessary, but I guess it'd be kind of cool. Now my favorite feature on the KWA M11A1 or Mac 11 isn't the 28 rounds per second rate of fire. It's not the big capacity of the magazine. It's the gun's stock. I love Mac 11s with stocks. Most people, they're not going to shoulder the weapon. They just want to spray on full auto. But me, I like to fire semi and shoulder the gun. In order to use the wire stock that's on the weapon, first you get a squeeze like so and it'll flip out. At that point there's a rather small button located on the back of the gun that you'd push in and the stock will slide out to its only other position, basically doubling the length of the weapon. The stock isn't very comfortable at first if you really did want to shoulder the weapon like me. It does take some getting used to, being that it's a wire stock and it's a little bit loose when it's all the way out, especially the back part here, but otherwise, I think it's pretty cool. If you really wanted to take some accurate shots with it, you do have the stock to steady your aim a little bit better. Not something that many people will use, so if you do want to remove it, you can simply hold in the button a little longer and the stock will simply come out like so, which certainly does make the Mac 11 a little bit less bulky and fit in the holster rather easier. So the stock would be good if you wanted to run this as a primary in, say, CQB, and without the stock, this would fit in a holster a lot easier if you wanted to use it as a sidearm. In order to reinsert the stock, simply hold in the button and slide the stock back in like so. It's very simple, and the stock's metal, very practical in my opinion. I really do like that they included it as opposed to some other Mac 11s where they don't give you the stock. The iron sights on the Mac 11 are not bad if you plan on using them. Like I said, certainly a gun many people might like to spray with, so who knows if the iron sights are going to see any use, but they are decent. The rear one is simply sort of a triangle with a small hole in it. It lines up to the grooved bolt, so that way you can see the front sight. That's why the bolt is grooved, with a small slanted front sight post up front. The iron sights are accurate to the gun, but again, who's really going to use them too much? They're non-adjustable, stuck the way they are. They're just kind of hunks of polymer attached to the main body so that you do have sights on the weapon. But overall, they're not too bad. As far as hop-up goes, the hop-up is accessed when the bolt is cocked back in the open position. Now at this point, you can see your hop-up right here. It's simply in there, and how you access it is a tool comes with the Mac 11. This one shown here, you'd simply stick it in, line it up carefully, and then you'd twist to increase or decrease your hop-up. Overall, the hop-up's fairly effective on this Mac 11. In fact, it's actually pretty darn good, but seeing as this might be something you'd use in a closer quarter battle, I don't see you really wanting to have it shoot amazingly far down the field, but believe it or not, the gun's hop-up does allow it to produce a range of maybe 100 to 110 feet very accurately. So overall, the hop-up's pretty effective on the Mac 11. Alright, and with that last bit about the hop-up unit being said, we can go ahead and hop into the final conclusion here. Now, as you guys have noticed, I've been a little bit more upbeat for this review because it's a gun I really enjoy doing videos on. I love my Mac 11. I've had it forever. It's a gun I've been tempted to sell, but just never could bring myself to do it because it's such a fun gun. Despite how much I love the weapon, there are a couple things I need to list as cons. First off, pulling the bolt back each time, that's a little bit annoying because there are some people out there who are forgetful. They just want to shoot their gun, and then they might not pull the bolt back and risk damaging their internals. But come on, there's a bright yellow sticker on the side, so that should be something you'll be able to remember. The iron sights are kind of cheapy, really just kind of pieces of plastic stuck on top of the polymer. However, really, with a gun like this, who really needs the iron sights? The stock's a little wobbly when it's all the way out and a little bit loose. If you accidentally were to reach forward, push the button, it could pop out when you're trying to shoulder the weapon. And finally, the gun is an ammo waster. When you have a weapon that shoots 28 rounds per second, come on, in a game, people are going to want to shoot full auto, and you can empty that mag in maybe a little over 2 seconds. So overall, the gun is actually pretty nice though. I think it's built very, very well, and I think it's just a fun gun. It's got a lot of things going for it and can really go either way. If you're an adequate CQB player who's always out there playing, you could definitely turn this into a primary weapon. Get a couple of spare magazines for it, mainly shoot it on semi. It can definitely dominate the field at your local CQB arena. As for the guys who want to use it as a secondary, I could certainly see it working as well. You could probably ring up a sling system, or perhaps you could go ahead and remove the stock and slip it into an M9 holster, which I've had it fit into rather snugly before, but it does fit. So overall, this is a gun that has a lot of potential if you're looking for an awesome gas blowback SMG with a powerful kick, and just something you really don't see on the field too much. I think the KWA M11A1 is a solid choice. So with that being said, guys, this has been KWA Airsoft's review of his very own KWA M11A1 NS2 gas blowback SMG. Thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe.